You and I are about the same age. We started watching Auburn baseball about the same time, and looking back at the way things were under John Pulowski and Sonny Galloway and although Steve Renfro before head coach Butch Thompson, we're looking at it and we're just like, man, are we ever going to see this happen? And watching Albie put up that 5 last night on the War Eagle wall was just incredible. And it had gotten to the point where I was like, okay, well, we've, won a few regionals now. We've gone to the super regional some. We've been to Omaha a couple of times in the last few years. So it's starting to get not really the expectation, because I don't want to put too much pressure on anybody or make it seem like I'm putting pressure on it, but it's just like, okay, it's becoming the normal around the Plains, I guess. And seeing that we're going to host one for the first time in a while is just incredible. I know we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Coastal Carolina. We'll go through the entire Auburn Regional and just talk about some of the key plays and key players that really made that special. But we want to take this time now and say those that are watching our YouTube show live that you can be a part of the show by posting your comments on our live stream. We will see that. We will put it on our stream. And so if you have a question, if you have a comment for us today, we'd be happy to get that on and talk with you about it. But we, of course, this show is going to be about the Auburn Regional. Auburn getting the big win, taking down Central Connecticut, taking down Stetson and NC State in just a rout on Sunday night to claim everything. And Blake, you and I were talking before the show. You were actually there at the Regional. Yep. Got to see the atmosphere, and it seemed electric watching it on the ESPN Plus stream, but just some of the stuff that you were telling me about things that the cameras didn't even pick up, it was so much fun to see that and hear you talk about it. So just what were some of the big things that you experienced this weekend watching a weekend at Plainsman Park unlike anything that we've ever seen?
Taylor, the first thing I want to say is shout out to the Auburn students. I feel like the Auburn student section showed up, and we're at a time right now where school is out. So you kind of expect, okay, well, the student section might be a little lacking because we see it in basketball, right? Mm-hmm. Like basketball season has that weird little spot in the season where students aren't on campus. They're going home for holidays, and you might have a Tuesday night game where the student section is a little lacking. But, man, these folks traveled back to Auburn, and they gave it everything. And I walked out Friday night against Central Connecticut to the student section. I was like, I just want to see the atmosphere out here. Are they giving it to the outfielders at Central Connecticut? Are there beer showers going up when we hit a home run? And they gave it their all, Taylor. And that's the first group I want to point out, because I was extremely impressed how they added the extra seating in out there, and the students just filled it to the rim. And so I want to give them their props, and I'm extremely proud of them for coming back to campus and making a statement out there. I feel like it was an impressive student section. And then I want to give a shout out to the Auburn staff for adding the extra seating, bringing all of that in, having it set up, having it looking presentable, and just the scenery where you could stand up on this extra seating in front of the parking garage and you could have a clear view of the field. And it was just the sunset coming down, and man, it was perfect. Like, Auburn knocked it out of the park with adding the extra seating because they knew people were traveling to see Auburn baseball in this regional. And I can tell you what, the fans, Taylor, when I walked outside of Plainsman Park after game one, Stetson and NC State, me, my brother, and my dad, we walked outside and we saw the line to get back into the stadium. And I said, oh boy. And my dad was like, what is it? And I was like, that line wraps all the way to Neville. And he said, no shot. And I said, it does. I was like, we're in trouble. And so I was like, we're in trouble. We should have come out here a little earlier. But, man, it was so cool to see, and you just make that walk down through there to Neville, and you see the people holding their chairs trying to get to Tiger Terrace. And this is general admission, folks. Like, this is first come, first serve. So these people, they're trying to get there. They're trying to get set up. They're trying to get their seats all in order. And it was extremely impressive from the Auburn Tigers faithful. And, the War Eagle Wall, I go up there and I get me a seat up there, and just looking out over Plainsman Park and not seeing an empty seat, Taylor. Filled to the rim. The suites filled to the rim. All chairbacks filled to the rim. Hall of Fame Club. Those tickets aren't cheap. Filled. You have former players tweeting out at the Auburn baseball page, guys, go get it done tonight. I feel like that has a big thing with Auburn baseball success. Like, former players are putting their time back into the program. And I think it's big time when you see that stuff on social media. Other kids see that maybe we might be recruiting. Look at this year's team. You have so many freshmen on this year's team that are producing and being big time players. So I was super impressed with the atmosphere, how these Auburn Tigers fans showed up. They were loud. It's the loudest I've ever heard Plainsman Park, and I've been inside Plainsman Park many a times. And it was absolutely electric. The feeling, especially in that Stetson game, that was one of the best baseball games I've been to in that type of playoff postseason setting. I really enjoyed that one. But, man, these Auburn Tigers fans, they brought it. Brad and Andy on the call. I love going back and listening to some of their calls together, and you could tell they were pumped up. So just as an Auburn fan, to see it this weekend, and I know it's going to be even bigger this coming weekend. It's going to be, you had 7,000 plus all 3 nights in Plainsman. I don't know if they can hold. They're going to have to turn people away, Taylor.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've asked this question myself, and Roy Philpott, Jackie Bradley Jr. on the broadcast on ESPN, they brought up this point too, is all the people that are on the parking deck, do they count those as well?
I don't think they do, because they're not actually paying to get into the stadium.
Yeah. So that was the question I had. So, I mean, you probably had upwards of maybe 8,500 people just in that area watching the game too. I don't know if they're going to have to sell seats on the dorms, in right field, or maybe go ahead and put those temporary bleachers on top of the hitting lab or whatever they can do to get all those guys in. But the atmosphere was just incredible just by watching it. And, they were talking about, we set another record. And, you and I were talking about this going back to, watching the days when Gabe Gross, who's now a coach, played, and all the other, times that we've seen Auburn play. And, I can remember, being in the middle of May, sometimes, and watching the final out, and like Hoover wasn't even on the table.
Yep.
And looking at what Auburn baseball is now is just incredible. Also got to give a shout out to Mississippi State as well. You're going to see where I'm going with this too. They recently hired a new baseball coach, and it wasn't Butch Thompson. So shout out Mississippi State for giving us that. I don't know if they even, looking at some of the, big media in Mississippi, they were, like, oh yeah, Butch has got to be, top 5 if he's not the main guy. And they decided not to take him. They went with the head coach from Virginia. So big shout out to Mississippi State, and whatever stars had to align for that to happen.
Well, we got their AD now. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and it was a guy that Butch coached under when he was at Starkville too. So that always helps. And you just look at all the added amenities that you were just talking about. And I think that was probably enough for Butch to say, hey, I'm never going to leave, because, I'm talking to my old boss, who's, now my boss in another capacity now, but he, saw what Duty Noble turned into. I mean, you look at all of the, old videos of what Duty Noble was, and now what it's become. John Cohen, sees that vision. Butch Thompson knows that baseball can be great here at Auburn, but we've got to stay on the top of the line as far as facilities go, as far as amenities go, and they listen. And you saw the results of that over the